Let's talk about something that for so many families is probably the biggest fear they have. What happens to autistic adults when their parents are gone? This isn't just some abstract question. It hits on everything, from basic human connection to financial survival, and believe it or not, fundamental human rights. So we're going to dive in and really unpack what the research and the experts are telling us.
Right? This is the question. It's the one that probably keeps so many parents staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. After a whole lifetime of being the main caregiver, the number one advocate, what does that future actually look like for their child, who's now an adult? It's a future that can feel filled with so much uncertainty, and we've got to face it head on.
Okay, so before we even get into the legal stuff, the financial planning, we have to start with the human side of this. Because when parents are no longer around, the first and maybe the most terrifying reality is the huge, huge risk of social isolation. And I'm not just talking about feeling a little lonely. I'm talking about the potential for a person's entire social world to just collapse.
And look, this isn't just a hunch or a sad story. We have hard data. Research from University College London is absolutely crystal clear here. It really establishes this baseline of social vulnerability that's, well, it's just so critical to understanding what's at stake. It tells us that this challenge often begins long before a parent ever passes away.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Take a look at this chart. While lots of people can feel lonely as they get older, the data shows something really specific and, frankly, alarming for autistic adults. For them, these feelings of loneliness don't just stick around, they actually tend to increase with age. Meanwhile, for non-autistic adults, it stays pretty stable. That growing gap, that's a massive red flag. And this quote, this just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It puts a human face on all that data. This isn't happening because autistic people don't want connection. Far from it. The study makes it so clear that they, like every single one of us, long for those social bonds. This struggle just highlights this urgent, unmet need that can turn into an absolute crisis when that main family support system is suddenly gone. So you might be wondering, how does this risk of isolation connect to all the practical, legal stuff? Well, when families are faced with this reality, they start looking for a way to make sure their loved one is taken care of. And for a long, long time, that has pointed to one primary solution: guardianship. But, and this is a big but, as we're about to see, that solution can come with a staggering cost. I mean, on the surface, it sounds like the right thing to do, doesn't it? A court gets involved, they appoint someone you trust, and they make sure all the important decisions get made. It's pitched as the ultimate safety net. But there's a fundamental problem with this approach that a lot of people just don't see until it's way too late. And there it is. That's the critical trade-off. In an attempt to protect someone, guardianship can literally strip them of their rights as a person. The right to decide where they live, what doctor they see, how they spend their own money, all of it can be taken away. It is an absolutely devastating loss of autonomy. Okay, so if guardianship is such a flawed answer, what are the alternatives? Well, the great news is there isn't just one. There's a whole toolkit of legal and financial strategies out there that are designed to build a future that has both security and dignity. So let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside. Now, this is the really tricky balancing act, isn't it? The whole goal here is to protect your loved one. But here's the catch. A simple inheritance or a life insurance check could be just enough money to disqualify them from essential government benefits like Medicaid or Social Security. It could actually leave them worse off. The tools we're about to talk about are specifically designed to stop that from happening. All right, the first big tool in the kit, the Special Needs Trust, or S&T. The easiest way to think about this is like a protective financial container. You can put assets, like an inheritance, into this container. It's then managed by someone called a trustee for the benefit of your loved one, and the best part is, none of it counts against them when it comes to their eligibility for government support. It's a real game changer. The second key tool is something called an ABLE account. This one works a little more like a special savings account, kind of like a 529 plan for college, but for disability expenses. It's usually a lot easier and cheaper to set up than a trust, and it lets the person save money without it counting against their benefit limits. Just keep in mind there's an eligibility rule based on the age their disability started, but that's actually set to expand in 2026, which is great news. So which one is right for you? An S&T or an ABLE account? Well, as you can see here, it really depends. ABLE accounts are simple and low cost, but they do have limits on how much you can put in each year. Special needs trusts are way more flexible, with no contribution limits, but they do involve lawyers and a bit more management.
But here's the most important takeaway. It's not an either-or choice. A lot of families actually use both to get the best of both worlds.
Okay, so protecting the money is absolutely vital. We've got that covered. But what about protecting a person's rights, their autonomy? This is where the toolkit gets really, really powerful because it offers ways to support people that actually empower them instead of taking away their freedom.
First up is supported decision-making. Honestly, this is a complete shift in thinking from guardianship. Instead of having someone else make choices for the person, the individual actually picks their own team of trusted advisors, friends, family, who then help them understand the options so they can communicate their own choice. See the difference? It's all about collaboration, not control. Next, we have the power of attorney. Think of this as a much more precise tool. It's a lighter, more targeted alternative to guardianship. With this, your loved one can legally appoint someone they trust to make very specific decisions, say just for healthcare or just for finances, while they hold on to all of their other rights and freedoms in every other part of their life.
And there are even simpler, everyday things you can do. Something like a joint bank account can let a trusted family member help out with budgeting and bills without a mountain of legal paperwork. And it's definitely worth just researching your local laws. In a lot of states, close family members are already allowed to help with certain medical decisions, meaning a formal agreement might not even be necessary. So, after going through all these challenges and all these different tools, what's the big picture here? I think it's that we need to completely reframe this whole process. This isn't some awful burden that you have to dread. It's a powerful, proactive course of action that you can actually start taking today. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Putting these tools in place, whether it's a trust, an ABLE account, or a supported decision-making agreement, is truly one of the most profound acts of love there is. It's about building a support structure that will be there long after you are, one that ensures your loved one's future is defined not by fear and isolation, but by security, dignity, and as much independence as possible. And that really brings us to our final question. It's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed by all of this. I get it. But real progress just starts with a single step. So what's one thing you can do today? Is it just Googling ABLE accounts in your state? Is it starting a conversation with your family about who could be on a support team? Thinking about that very first step, that's how you begin to turn that fear of the future into a plan for it.